to talk about harmonization, challenges, and opportunities of the EPDs. And I already, the people are coming up without me even introducing you. Okay, have a seat. It's wonderful. I don't think I've ever had such eager speakers on stage, which is wonderful. So give them a warm hand.
Thank you.
And let's see now, we'll start from this side. Are you sitting in front of your images here? Yes, you are. Oh, good thing. Excellent. How lucky I am. So Björn Spock, you are from the Swedish Environmental Protection Agency, and you're an advisor there?
Yes.
Wonderful to have you here, Björn. And next to him is Martin Erlandsson. He's Business Development Manager at the IVL, which is the Swedish Environmental Research Institute. Great to have you here, too.
Thank you.
And then we have Archana Datta, Associate Program Manager Officer, Life Cycle Initiative from the UNEP. And it's terrific that you are here, of course. And Christian Donat, Managing Director, Eco Platform AISBL. Wonderful to have you here in Gothenburg. And last but not least, Marco Cordella. Mauro. Correct? I was a little bit too fast there. Mauro Cordella, Policy Officer, DG Environment. You're working with the environmental footprints and green claims at the European Commission. And I was just at a meeting with your colleagues yesterday because I'm an EU Climate Pact ambassador. So I spoke with one of your colleagues from the DG Climate. It's a great organization, of course, important in this transition. We are all in to a more climate-safe future. So we have a panel. I have plenty of questions here, but do please send in questions to the panelists. And if we are lucky, we're a little bit ahead of schedule, which is great. And then hopefully I will be able to take some of your questions too at the end of the panel's talk here. Okay. So you are all representatives of policymaking organizations from a national, international, transnational. Sorry, I was a little bit too quick here. Let's move back to the cards here. I'm moving too quickly because it's so many interesting people here. The first question goes to Mauro. And as a representative of policymaking organizations from a national, international, and transnational level, Mauro, and to all of you here, the opening question goes to all of you, is how your organization is currently actively contributing to the creation and realization of one single LCA method for green economy. So that goes to all of you, but I'd like to start with you first, Mauro.
Thanks a lot. I like to break the ice. I'm used to that. So,
good.
In the European Commission, perhaps you are all aware that we have a recommendation on life cycle assessment. That is the recommendation now 2021-2279 on the environmental footprint methods. So this is the harmonized way we see on how the LCA should be done for products and organizations to calculate and communicate their environmental impacts. This is a tool, is not a policy. But over the years, we have seen that there is an increased use of LCA and EF methods in different policies. And of course, what we have as a vision is to promote further the use of EF methods and to have harmonization in the policies of the European Union.
Thank you very much, Mauro. Christian, tell us please about how your organization approaches this field.
So actually, I just it came to my mind that Eco Platform, I thought it's all about the technical work that we are doing. And that's really the core of Eco Platform, to bring together all the stakeholder groups and to work on these guidance documents, which we then call Eco Platform standards. But actually what we're contributing, and only Eco Platform in that place, is a governance structure for the voluntary area. Because as you are working in the Commission on the regulatory area, then the law is the governance. But what about the data that we need as well, the complementary data, which is voluntary? There's no governance, apart from the program operators. But the program operators could follow their own governance. And what is it worth if you then go into competition with fake EPDs? And we still have them in the market, which are not following the same rules. So that's unfair competition. We talked about it in Istanbul last year, right? So I think that's the main contribution of eco-platform, that we provide a governance structure, which is then the basis for any harmonization. And what means governance? The program operators, as Gustav just said, are committed to follow our eco-platform standards that we all develop together. And they can be sanctioned if not. They are audited against it. So they have something to lose and they have something to win. They can show it with compliance with an eco EPD logo. So that's governance.
Thank you very much. Archana, the UNEP perspective here, please.
So for us, I think the larger goal, at least from the life cycle initiative side, is to ensure that there are these enabling conditions to LCA. I mean, we are all talking about how LCA can support policy and business decision making, but I think it is also from a global level. I mean, how we see it going beyond Europe and America, where the capacities are already there, reaching out to regions which are underrepresented, reaching out to stakeholders that are underrepresented, and trying to ensure that we develop their capacities, working with different kinds of stakeholders, bringing all of them together. Gender balance is also one of the critical aspects, and I'm glad to be managing gender balance today in the panel itself. So yeah, I mean, for a UN body, I think it goes beyond. As I said, I mean, it's not just about ensuring that there are scientific developments and method developments which are happening, but they are happening considering all the relevant stakeholders on the same platform, providing equal opportunities.
Thank you very much, Archana. Martin, over to you and your perspective, please.
Yeah, I think we should remember EPD is called EPD International for a reason. And I think we have to have in mind that we are in one Earth and that Earth should be saved, and we should have the same methodology worldwide. So we have to start with international standards, else we create a trade barrier. And if we start with international standard, we can also use already existing system. And that means if we use that for legislation, we will have a kickstart. So instead of starting with no EPDs or PEFs, we can start with, as in 2025, or what it was, 4 million from CPR and things like that. So I think the opportunity here is to actually go international, seek for international solutions and standardizations. And for instance, when you have the digital product passport, it will be something that will be affected outside Europe. So we can't invent everything here and invent the wheel once more when we have something that is already running, actually.
Thank you very much, Martin. Björn Spock.
Yes, thank you. Well, before I joined the EPA, sorry, I had the good fortune to work with Gustav Sandin. And he spoke a lot about expectation management. And I think this is something we have to apply here. So as regards the Swedish EPA, I don't think we really have that mandate to work for a single method. It's not. We are governed really by kind of what the government wants, and we are obliged to kind of carry out the policies. And that is not something that they really steer for in such a clear way. We are representing Sweden in the technical advisory board in the development of the product environmental footprints, but that is not working. That is kind of improving that. It's not excluding something else.
Thank you. I'd like for you to elaborate a bit on this, because Sweden has been a front runner in the field of environmental policies in many years, and not to say the establishment of the EPD system in 1997 by the Swedish EPA is, of course, a great example here. But could you elaborate a bit on how you, as a public body, successfully engage with both the public, of course, and private sector, and also do it on various levels here to drive your agenda, because you do have to sort of build the framework conditions that you also seek alignment for. So it's a bit of it's not an easy task, I assume.
No, thank you. No, and of course, I mean, with most companies, so there are a lot of persons working with the products and just a few working with the environment. And at the EPA, we are everyone is working with the environment. Just a few of us are working with products. So it's a bit different. And we manage, the big predators and cleaning up industrial wasted sites and so on. So I should probably restrict this to the life cycle field. And there, I think, the most important arena for us is overall would be the Swedish Life Cycle Center, where we engage with industry, where we engage with academia, and we also have other ways of connecting to business. I think participating in meetings like this, that's an important way for us to get feedback on what we should do and what we should evolve. And then, should we prepare legislation, be part of that, there will be a referral. So we will reach out to especially to important actors, but it will be open to anyone to give their feedback on that suggested piece of legislation. And that's the same. A lot of the things that we are talking about now is European legislation, and then there will be a have your say from the Commission. And then I, of course, urge everyone to take part of these referrals and make your voice heard when you are asked how you want it done, either by when the Commission is asking or when the Swedish government is asking.
That's key, of course, to get this to be further developed. Thank you very much, Björn Spock. And over to you, Martin Erlandsson, as a senior and very senior SLC expert, and also you're working with an independent NPO. I'm curious to hear. You're also a board member of the EPD International. Can you just please describe to the audience here online and in the room your opinion? The missing pieces and links, which are they? Not only just discussing the single market, but also about building the LCA method for the single market that is acceptable and also the workable, implementable for most actors. It's a complex
that was
world.
A real complex question.
It is a complex question.
The answer is luckily very simple.
Excellent.
Yeah. So I think currently there is a tremendous window of opportunity. We have in Europe a legislation that will be very novel. We have the Eco-Design Directive that asks for performance of products. We have the Construction Product Declaration with also an EPD, and they ask for the same thing. But the annoying thing is that you don't perhaps currently get the same answer. So if you produce a steel, perhaps it is not the same figure that is reported, credited gate, if you have it in the PEF approach compared to the building approach. And we can't have that. That's not reliable. It will not be accepted by markets who have to squeeze this system. And the very, very, very short, simple solution is to say the credited gate result should be the same. So as I said before, why invent the wheel? We have the wheel. So we take the good thing, the good wheel from the EPD system. And then for the PEF, we can say we add all this attribute that is added by PEF. So if we would like to have a single score for a product, you can add that. And you can have the full life cycle. And it's not any problem. But you just change the small little methodology for credited gate and the methodology used, it will fit to the scope. And also the EPD for construction has to change, because now we have a new regulation for building, climate declaration for building, and limit value 2030. And now the EPD is a tool not only for a product, but to be assessed in the construction works level. And that means the EPD will have it's not module. It has several modules, alternatives, parameterization to be used as informed information on the construction level. So the EPD have a new meaning in that sense in this legal requirement. So it's a tremendous development here that we can actually make use of, and we have to harmonize. It's not, we can't accept that we have two different methods, and we can have all these solutions, all the instruments from PEF could be there, and the construction sector can have all their wish list. So to me, just the correct decision, and we are there. What do you say about that, Björn?
Hey, that was wonderful. So, of course, if you'd like to reflect and add your perspective, just indicate. I'm looking at you, Mauro. This is the European perspective here. Would you like to add something?
I don't know if I will provide an answer to the question for me, but what I could say now is that there are different tools where LCA is used. This is something that has started happening significantly after the European Green Deal. So that was a boom to push
absolutely.
the use of LCA. So we have many carbon footprint tools. Now there are other policies that are extending the life cycle assessment practice to other environmental footprint metrics. And you mentioned key tools like the Eco Design for Sustainable Product Regulation or the construction product regulations. We also need to think historically how things has been done at the level of LCA. So LCA, from a scientific perspective, is something very old. From a policy perspective, is very young. There can be different level of maturities, different level of knowledge by policymakers in the different fields. And historically, we have in the construction product regulation that the reference is the EN15804, because there is a mandate by member states to have that reference there. PEF is used in other contexts, like carbon footprint for batteries, eco-design for PV panels. It has a big role in the ESPR. And you are totally right that we should not have inconsistency. I can assure you, I don't work with the construction product regulation. I can assure you that we are in close contact, DG Environment and DG Grow. So let's say the owners of the different methodologies to work and ensure that there will be harmonization. Then the target for the far future must be full harmonization, but we will work also to have harmonization as far as possible also in the shorter term. On cradle to gate, I would have other reaction, but perhaps I think that I understand the potentialities, but we also need to be aware that a cradle to gate is an incomplete information. So we need to find a solution that address both this need for modularity that I fully understand, and also address this issue with the communication, because even in the construction products, what you have is something that if you don't consider this construction product at the building level or in the use level, it will provide an information that could be misused.
Thank you, Mauro. And just quick get back here from Martin, please.
I fully agree. So we have to differ from consumer products and products to building, but the methodology could still be the same. That's my answer.
Thank you. Turning now to the UNEP perspective, Archana. The UNEP LCA initiative offers technical and policy advice, capacity development also, and knowledge transfer on, of course, and we're talking on a global scale. And you are a consensus-based organization that we are all aware of. That is the United Nations setup. And you recently announced some milestones on the GLAM method and the updated characterization factors. So now could you please describe how your collaboration platform and work, such as the GLAM project, find their way, for instance, into the EC and national policy frameworks, and how it contributes to their harmonization?
Very interesting question. I think there are two aspects. One part of it is what we do and how we do. In terms of what we do, as you mentioned, I think enabling conditions, as I was previously telling, is one part of it. And when we talk about enabling conditions, it's this global consensus-based method development, GLAM. We launched GLAM 2 days ago in CTAC. So if some of you were joining us for the CTAC GLAM launch, you would have heard what we have done. It was a massive effort on not just our side, but over the last decade, from about 200 plus experts who were involved in the method development process. And here I'm talking about the how part of it. There is this group of experts who joined hands, and then we ensured that we have representatives from not just the academic, the research side of it, but also people from industry and policy side of it engaged. EC was engaged through the workshops that we organized in different phases of GLAM. I know Mauro will have a different perspective of how things could have been done better, and I agree. There is always a possibility for us to improve. But we are now talking, we are engaging with EC, we are trying to align our timelines. Also, from what Mauro mentioned, that there is this update of the EF method which is planned for next year. We are in conversation trying to ensure that the recommendations of GLAM, at least to a certain extent, can be incorporated and used, hopefully, in the EF method. The second component of it is also around capacity building, and as he was, Mauro, please don't mind, but he was talking about the maturity of policymakers. This is something, we have observed even in region like Europe, there is different levels of maturity amongst the policymakers. And the idea is to ensure that we engage effectively with people and with the member states and regions with different level of maturity, trying to bring all of them together and provide them that standardized approach of how things can be looked at, but also providing them a bit of flexibility to allow them to use LCA as like one of the best tools which is available out there to help them design their policies and support. I'll take example of another project that we've started very recently earlier this year, which is on developing guidelines for modeling biogenic carbon in LCA. And we are engaging with over 164 experts, across the globe, trying to ensure that, from the research side, there are different approaches which are being presented, but then analyzing which amongst these approaches can we develop a consensus around how to model biogenic carbon, how can then the recommendations and the guidelines that we produce by end of 2025, we can say that this is something which has been developed with consensus of experts and organizations from across the world.
Thank you very much, Archana. And of course, if you want to add a perspective briefly, you could do so. Just raise your hand. And we're looking at Mauro again, but he's
no, thanks a lot. I think that the work that Archana and her team in the Life Cycle Initiative are doing is impressive, so massive work. Mm-hmm. Then, of course, say that I think we need to, for sure, there are margins to improve the way that we can collaborate together and put things in the right timeline. Because my feeling is that in many cases there are very top scientists working there, but what I feel that is that their timeline is not fully aligned with ours. So when you have a policy process, you have a much stricter milestone that you need to achieve at a certain point, and you cannot have the flexibility to say in 3 months or in 6 months I will change this because I spotted that there is a mistake or something that after the testing we see that must be improved. So, but we have a good collaboration, and we at least we will try to address harmonization for the farther future. Mm.
And of course, this is also a good situation where you get to meet not just via a digital box, but in person, and also get feedback from the processes here. Would you like to add something, Archana? You good?
No, I've been interacting with Mauro for the last 3 days, so hopefully we'll take it forward from there.
Harmonization is the word, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So excellent. So let's move on to Christian. The Eco Platform, your key objective is to contribute to a low-carbon, resource-efficient construction sector. And you do this by coordinating the development and provision of credible and scientifically correct data from products, just so we all know what you're working with. And the EN15804 is the reference standard for the EU construction sector. Probably most of you know this already. And as a private association, what role and mandate does the Eco Platform currently have in the green economy, the Green Deal, and the green construction agenda in particular? And what role would you like for your association to play in actually making this all happen?
When I last spoke here, in the last turn, I talked about roles already. and the role of the complementary role of eco-platform in the voluntary area. So I won't repeat that, but of course,
could you elaborate, please?
But of course, that part would remain the same. But then, of course, there could be the question: if now regulation is coming up in the EU, what's the role of eco-platform? And I think that's a fair question. So first of all, data will remain voluntary. We will still have voluntary information that we need, and we must have consistent data. And that is a challenge. If you're regulating, then you can only regulate what you can regulate. That was a simple statement, but you know what I mean. Outside of the regulation, you don't have any control. So if you don't have a governance structure for the voluntary area, you fail to deliver to the building level what you need to deliver. Because at an early design stage, just to give an example, and I explained that last year, at an early design stage, you need maybe generic data, something the ODCI is now working on with building transparency. Stacy touched a little bit on it. We need rules for generic data verification, for example. We are working on it. They need to be consistent with the regulation. For example, in the EU, there are other regions that we would like to be aligned with. Otherwise, industry would have an unsolvable or unaffordable situation and couldn't deliver the data for different regions in an affordable way. They will need tools. They need to be aligned, and they need consistent data. So all that on a building level, we start with product neutral data, and that must be consistent with the specific data that we get out of regulation. And that is a very important role for eco-platform that I see. Moreover, there are other roles like being the advisor to policy, as we do at the moment in participation in the CPR key working groups on horizontal issues, where eco-platform is seen as a provider of information with a lot of experience, decades of experiences with like EPD International. How old are you now? We should 25 years, right? So compared to what we are now trying to do, so you aim to be a notified body then, of course, under the CPR, but compared to other notified bodies that come from lab testing, know how to do, how to test behavior to fire or tensile stress, but they have no experience in validation / verification of environmental data, completely different job. So here we are advising and we are contributing to the standardization works. We are in the group of notified bodies to advise, and that is a very relevant role. Plus, we are a network for exchange. We can try and error. Of course, we need to institutionalize. There we are improving, but we need to. Gustav said something about the product rules and program rules. But there we have our role. And education. We are starting now education for manufacturers. It's the first time we were asked. There's no standard out there. So where is eco-platform in providing guidance to manufacturers? What is coming from regulation? What is an EPD? Why do I need a verification? Why do I need an LCA consultant? What is a tool? Oh, there are different tools. So this kind of education, we're now standardizing. We're offering the first education courses to manufacturers, and that is needed too. So all these side roles we have as well.
Thank you very much, Christian. I'm looking at the clock and I can tell that we have room for one question from the audience. So if you'd like to type one in, that's fine. I'll get it. It'll be arriving here on my iPad. But I do, of course, have a question for you, Mauro. The EU has an ambitious climate agenda. And the EC has initiated the development of many new legislations, luckily, and methods that will affect many aspects of our lives. And can you describe how DG Environment is assuring that the future EU regulation is driving both innovation and harmonization when defining the level playing field for a green economy. Of course, this we do in order to ascertain a fair market competition, and also finding, of course, striking a balance not to overregulate.
Thanks a lot. Quite a long question.
It is a long question. That's why I have looked at my notes.
A not too long answer. No. So, first of all, what we have at EU level, it is a mix of voluntary and mandatory tools. Why do we have this? We have this because, let's not be naive, the market will not be able alone to evolve towards sustainability. We need to have a pull or a push as well from the regulator. Of course, we try to do this having clear where there are the priorities where we need to act. For instance, with the co-design for sustainable product regulation, we will not have immediately from in 1 year the regulation of all the products on the market, but there is a prioritization exercise that is informed, by the way, by LCA. So we are doing this with a rationale. And then building on that, there will be also voluntary tools like the Green Claim Directive proposal that will address all the products that are not regulated through mandatory legislation. And this will provide additional level of protection to consumers against greenwashing. And all the information that comes from voluntary tools like Green Claim Directive or through LCA then can be a solid input for also for the legislature in developing mandatory tools. Then when we do this, of course, there is a broad spectrum. There are some, as I said, there are some applications that are mandatory. I already mentioned some of them, like the carbon footprint of batteries or PV panels. This will be mandatory legislation. We're also working on, with the Net Zero Industry Act, on the carbon footprint for renewable energy technologies. We are working on the carbon footprint for vehicles. And then we are expanding beyond the carbon footprint level to other environmental areas, like for critical raw materials, where there will be a legislation requiring all the importer of critical raw material to provide the environmental footprint of the critical raw materials that enter into the EU market. This, together with the ESPR that I already mentioned and the construction product regulation, of which we have talked already a lot, these are all, let's say, they are the main bones of the framework on LCA, applied to policies. But we also have other applications where, let's say, when you talk about innovation, I would like to mention an initiative like the Safe and Sustainable by Design of Chemicals, where LCA play a key role, and LCA made according to the environmental footprint method. And in this case, is to foster innovation at EU level, not to regulate which chemicals are developed in the European Union. Mm-hmm. So we have a mix of cases that where LCA it is used, and all of them anyhow are done in a way that LCA is in a way that can ensure that we have a coherent implementation of the policies in order to achieve the goals that we have as European Union and protect the citizens.
Thank you very much, Mauro. There is a question here coming in from the audience, and it's to you, Martin. It's related to the harmonization of data. What is your perspective on how we approach this at a global scale, related to country and regional level policies? How do we bring policymakers along on this journey?
I think the lucky thing here is that we are market-driven. And the market is stronger in this sense compared to the legislation. We are the forerunner. And look at Gustav's presentation. He actually showed how we now harmonize different standards. We don't talk about 1584, we also talk about 21930, the international version of that standard. We harmonize those. So within EPD International, when you do a construction product, in theory, you can actually produce the result for Tracy and EF3.1 as in Europe. And so I would say that the new programming instruction is actually one very good example of harmonization in practice. And we are market driven, and we are not waiting for a decision. We are doing this now. Don't we, Gustav? Thank you.
Thank you. Arshana, you indicated, right? You wanted to add? No? Yes? Yes?
Oh, you too.
Go ahead.
Yeah, okay, Christian. I thought maybe you were just scratching your shoulder. Yes, please go ahead.
I don't go into details, just on a principle level, because that is something to add. I think we should never forget about one principle if we want to achieve anything, and that is regulators, policymakers, they have goals. So politicians, they have goals. These goals will be different in different regions of the world. They will be different over time. There are regulators that need to fulfill that. They should set benchmarks, and they can be different. They can even, there's different demand on the demand side, setting requirements. But on the methodology level, we should not make differences. And if you mix in, and if regulation comes and defines things on the methodological level, we will never ever be able to harmonize, because it will be done, and we see it now differently in North America and in Europe. Yeah. And how would you ever overcome that then? So stick to your roles, I would say to the regulators, I would say to us. Yeah. So it's the same thing for us. Yeah. We should not mix up with our methodology and try to aim for targets. We should deliver the data which is scientifically correct and verified. Third party. Yeah, that's it. And then stop.
Thank you. Mauro was first, and then Martin. That's the last intervention here for this panel.
So first of all, I would like to say that it is very much important that the market have this evolution. So all these initiatives are very good. But what is the parameter of success? Is the quantity or the quality? It was already mentioned in the presentation by Gustav that many errors and inconsistency were found in the PCRs. Is this quality? No. So we need to change the paradigm, I think, also as a society, in everything. Also in what we consume. We should not only think of quantity, we should think of quality. And here is where the regulator can play a big role. Because to make an LCA consistent, you need several ingredients. You need good impact assessment methods, you need good modeling rules, you need good data, you need tools, you need good analysts. So the recipe is not that complex because the list is very short, but then it is complex to do an LCA. I heard before that a lot about one-click LCA, not the company, but to have tools that enable to do an LCA very quickly. This is fantastic, but we should not forget that behind an LCA, there is information, and there is the need to interpret this information. This must not be forgotten, and we cannot be naive to think that LCA can be done just clicking a button. We need to train the people to do right LCAs. Otherwise, we will lose the momentum, we will just produce information that doesn't make sense, and then this will discredit the practice of LCA and ultimately also the EPD. So what I would like to call is for harmonization of at the different levels. And we should not be competitors, but rather be seen as collaborators that try to achieve a common goal.
Thank you. Martin, and then Archana. Well, there you go.
I think there is actually some border here that bring us together. And the beautiful thing with PEF approach is that you do things regulation way that we will never do. And that's the perfect approach. You have the basic information from us, we provide it to you, and you make the benchmarks, you make the single score, and you make the end-of-life equation in order to make it as part of the policy. And that's a perfect combination. Both have an existence, in my mind.
Since you're shaking your head, you need to say two sentences, then it's Archana.
I heard twice single score. I mean, PEF, the strength of PEF is not the single score. So I think that what we need, as I say, that if the five of us, we analyze that bottle, and you start with EcoInvent, I start with Gabi, and someone else start with other data, we will generate different results. We need harmonization on methods and data. Then your information is valuable. You have primary data, for sure. But we need then to match primary data with secondary data. We need to ensure that all the ingredients and the recipe for making a good LCA is in place and applied in a current way. And then, as I said, also, if we have now some divergences in terms of policies, we need to also to tolerate them, but having in mind that the final objective must be to harmonize. I say that things have started at different times. If we wait for perfection, we will never move on, or we will move on in an inconsistent way. We have moved on. Let's take this momentum and let's work together to make things, to correct things, and to make sure that this makes sense. This is my vision.
Thank you very much. And Archana, you get the final say here.
I mean, just to complement what Mauro was saying, I think harmonization certainly is a critical component that needs to be addressed. With LCA, I mean, we've seen, all of us agree it's a very robust tool, but then it is prone to misinterpretation, and misinterpretation not just accidental, but also intentional at times. And that's why I think robustness of LCA studies play a key critical role, and that's where what Mauro was talking about, having a common method, harmonized method, having data accessibility, data interoperability, and a robust database to ensure that we are all producing the same result, whether or not we are using different software, different methods, but the end result should be same, so that when you're comparing the right things, right? So,
well, thank you very much, Archana, and thank you all of you panelists here for sharing your insights. Give them a warm hand, please.